So I thank you for this. This is the business part of what we do. So what I'd like to do is we have a couple of things. We have a panel up here. We have interviewers up here that are really going to talk and really going to really open up things with the athletes for you. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves and the athletes. But right now, what I want you to do is I see we have Commissioner Cox here with us. Commissioner, could you stand for a moment? Give him. That's Police Commissioner Cox. Yes. He wanted to come out. He said, I heard young people were getting together and gathering for something positive, and I want to be there too. I want to be in the midst. So thank you, Commissioner. He's been very supportive of us. We also have a special treat for you tonight. As we begin, we want to show you there are other things to do. Just like in basketball, there are other parts of the NBA that you can be in other than be a basketball player. It's a large organization. But I want to show you, we have a minister of music here. But before we do that, we ask Pastor Ray, where are you? This is my boss, Pastor Ray Hammond. And we have a youth pastor here. Yeah, that's right. Give him a hand. Help me out. Give him a hand. And we have a youth pastor, Pastor Tanya. This is our youth pastor. He's going to say a word.
And it really is going to be a word, because I know that you certainly want to get into this discussion quickly. That said, allow me to just say welcome. We are so happy to see each and every one of you here. As I was telling the commissioner and other people, I love it when this place is full. If it's full on Sunday or other occasions and people are worshiping and celebrating, that's great. But this kind of gathering where young people are here and we can share some powerful, inspiring, hope, encouraging things, that really makes me happy. That was our vision when we came to this facility about 15 years ago. So thank you for helping to make that vision a reality. Just want to say a word, too, of greeting to all of the youth service, community service officers who are here. Thank them for their partnership over now almost 35 years. That's how long we've been doing partnerships, first with the Police Athletic League, and then with some of the work that we were doing with young people in the courts. And of course, special thank you to the commissioner, my good friend, the superintendents here, especially Nora Baston. We've known each other for many, many, many years. With that, I'm going to ask you to just hear a word from our youth pastor, Minister Tanya Miller.
What's up, everybody? How y'all feeling today? Y'all good? Y'all had a good day? It is so good to see you here. We want you to come back. So all of you youth leaders, all of you, the teams that you represent, we want you to know that Bethel has space for you no matter what age you are. This is like one of our community events that draws out a lot of young people, but we don't want this to be the only event that draws out a lot of people. So if you're looking for some things to do or some people to connect with, please, youth leaders or captains of the teams and all the community agencies that are represented here. My name is Tanya Miller. You can reach me. I work at the church from Monday to Sunday. So I'm always here. You can always find me. And if you want some information on how we can connect, please feel free to come and just chat with me, and I'll share that information because I want to see you again.
God bless you.
Okay, so as you can see, tonight we have Brother Malcolm Brogdon, we have Brother Grant Williams, and Brother Jalen Brown. And so before we get into, we also have a Brother Willie May, Coach Willie May, who will be here. And what will happen is at the very end of the questions and the answers, we're going to allow a few questions. So what will happen is when Reverend Carrington says it's time, we'll have some folks come and line up right here, and Coach Willie May will orchestrate that. We're asking that let the young kids come and ask the questions. But when we have to cut it off, we have to cut it off. So I just share that with you. So as we begin to open this up, the last thing we have is we have our minister of music who's here tonight, who's going to just bless us with something that you don't generally see in the city. he's going to play the cello. And so we're asking that as he comes, we're asking that you would give him a hand. It's Minister Kendall Remsor and Brother Martin Robertson. Greet them with an amen. After which the next voice you hear will be that of Reverend Carrington Moore.
Family, let's clap it up for Minister Kendall one more time. Let's clap it up for him one more time, family. It's good to see everybody today. I'm Reverend Carrington Moore. I'm joined by my colleagues.
Hi, I'm Carrie.
And I'm Casey.
And we're joined by some amazing athletes, members of the Celtics team. So we're joined by Malcolm Brogdon. Let's clap it up for our dear brother Malcolm. Let's clap it up for Grant Williams. And let's clap it up for Jaylen Brown. That was beautiful. So we're going to jump right into our conversation. It'll be like a round robin. Brothers, respond how you see fit. Today, family, we'll be exploring conversations around teamwork, leadership, and your own personal faith. That's going to guide our conversations today. But first, we just want to learn a little bit about you, brothers. Can you all share a little bit about when did you all know that basketball was like your thing, and how did your culture or your family, your community support you in that? So any one of you all can start off.
For me, I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Born and raised. I have two older brothers that are still there practicing law. I had parents that were together until I was about 11 years old. Then my parents split up. But I always grew up outside in the streets, playing basketball, playing soccer, playing football, really doing everything. But once I got to about middle school, high school, you have the opportunity to play all the sports in high school, but if you play everything, you might not be great at one thing. So I really followed in my older brother's footsteps who played basketball. I saw him every day after school working on his game. He had a trainer. He was in the gym playing pickup. He was doing it all, just really focused on his craft. So I picked basketball. And from then on, it was really my thing. Like every day after school, I worked with that trainer. I played with my AAU team. I basically did everything I could to make sure I'd be as good at basketball as I could be, along with my academics. My mom always said, if you don't at least have a B average in the classroom, you can't be on the court. You can't be there's no extracurriculars for you. So I had to maintain that B average. It allowed me to be on the court and really pursue basketball at the highest level. Once I got to about 9th, 10th grade, I realized maybe I could play at the college level. Maybe I could play at the big D1 level in college. So I honed into that skill, that craft a little bit more. And then by the time I became a junior in high school, a senior in high school, I was thinking, man, maybe I could really, play in the NBA one day. But I have to get to college. I have to go to a big D1. Like that's the route that everybody was taking. Ended up committing to University of Virginia. My family really backed me. I had to go to a good academic school. That was always the priority for my family. Go to a great academic school because if basketball doesn't work out in college, you'll have a great degree to fall back on. So I went to Virginia. I stayed actually 5 years. I played my first year. I got injured at the end of my first year, so I had to redshirt, which means you sit out your second year, and then you have an extra year of eligibility at the end of your college career. So I stayed all 5 years in college. I got my degree. I got my master's in public policy, and then I got drafted. And I think you'll hear, everybody's story is different. I think all of us had very different paths. But most times you do. You have a different path than everybody else. You just have to be so focused on yourself, so focused on what you need to do in order to get to that next level, what you need to do in order to be a good person off the court, a good person in the classroom, a good person to your family, a good family member. These are the things that matter the most when you're really trying to pursue something at the very highest level, being a person of character, being a person of faith, because this is what you're going to fall back on. At the end of the day, basketball is going to be done for me at some point, for all of us at some point, and you're going to have to learn how to be a regular person in this world and be a good person. So I think you'll hear from everybody here.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Similar story. My name is Grant Williams. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. My family actually split when I was younger, roughly around probably 4 or 5 years old. I was always surrounded by a basketball family. Cousins who had played in the NBA, brother who had a dream of playing NBA. For me, I always had a dream of working for him. So for me, I never really knew that I was going to be playing basketball for a living. I always thought that my academics, same in my household, mom and dad always said if I AB honor roll, anything less, you don't ever think about going outside. So next thing you know, I get to middle school, I start that's when I first touched basketball when I was around 10, 11 years old. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going this to have fun. Everything else, I was still in art school, so I was doing music, I was playing piano, I was doing all the extracurriculars, chess, and everything else growing up. And then got to high school, started getting recruited at the mid-major level. Never really thought I'd be playing high major at the time. I was like, I can go get my college paid for, do exactly what I told my parents I was going to do for them, and go take care of my family that way. Get to that level, start playing in high school. You stuck to one sport, stuck to basketball, similar to Malcolm, and I did a little bit of track, but that wasn't necessarily the most enjoyed thing I did in my life. But I ended up going through high school, 9th, 10th grade, just playing, still playing for fun, still playing, saying, okay, I can play at the college level. Get to my junior year, still no high major offers really. I was a kid that was getting recruited by mostly Ivy League schools, who I was super excited about. Ended up getting an offer from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville by my former coach who recruited me, who was at UNC Charlotte at the time where I grew up. He got hired by Rick Barnes at Knoxville. He said, if you don't mind, I would love to keep recruiting you. This is my senior year now. And I said, I trust you, coach, more than anyone. And if anything, I'll allow it. And my mom wasn't necessarily the biggest fan. Good old SEC versus any Ivy League, let's just say, from a brother in the South, you typically take the Ivy League route. I ended up deciding to go to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. In that junior year, I realized that I could compete with anyone. I remember playing against guys who were considered the next best players in the not only in college but also in the NBA. So I was like, okay, if I can compete with these guys, maybe I can do it at the next level. But I also wanted to make sure I was able to not only have my grandparents come see me play, but also I told my mom that I would graduate in 3 years because I know me not going to an Ivy League school is going to make her upset. She didn't talk to me for 2 months. But I ended up committing to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, went there, had a successful career, and that was around the time where I realized I might be able to make it to the NBA. Ended up graduating 3 years like I promised my mom, went to the league the year after. I told my mom that if I didn't make it inside the NBA draft process, I'd go back and get my master's. Fortunately enough, I stayed into the draft and ended up getting drafted by the Celtics. And it's been that ever since. Thankful to be in the position that I'm in. Like Malcolm said, it all is about running your race. You have to focus on making sure that everything you have is focused on the goal that you want to accomplish, whether that's taking care of your family, whether that's getting out of where you currently are, whether that's making sure that every single detail you take care of is to the utmost degree. Because for me, I remember having to graduate. The only reason I graduated in 3 years is because I had to take 19 course hours, both my last 2 semesters, as well as every summer class. And you had the option of going out every night or having, quote, fun experience. But for me, I knew what the goal I had in mind. And we all know what we want to accomplish and where we want to get to in life. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to sacrifice, how much you're willing to give to get there. And that's the best advice that I can give.
Thank you, Grant.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jaylen Brown. I had the privilege of sharing the floor with these two, but I'm from Atlanta, Georgia as well. I used to watch Malcolm play when I was in high school, when he was in high school, long time ago. But I got a similar upbringing to both of these guys. Education was not an option. I come from a family of teachers. My grandma, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, she was a teacher. All of her sisters were teachers. My uncles, my aunts. Like, I come from a family education. My grandma used to make me, do classwork and homework in the summertime. Every time I used to go see her, I used to complain. I used to fight her tooth and nail because it's the summertime. You want to play video games. You want to play basketball. She used to make me do book reports. Used to write papers. And I used to complain all the time. But, the things that she used to do or make me do when I was a kid, definitely helped me in the future. So I appreciate her so much for that. But education is something that's just always been a part of my family. But in terms of basketball, how the game kind of came to me, I think I say this a lot. Like, I don't feel like I chose basketball. I feel like it chose me. in a sense, because like before I even knew like right or wrong, like I just knew basketball was like my comfort blanket. Like my mom, she'll tell you like I learned to walk. Like my brother, older brother, used to get up and roll the ball, and a basketball, like a full NBA grown ball. And I used to, that's how I learned to walk. I would get up and chase the ball. Like before I knew how to speak, before I knew, what was up, what was down, I knew that ball would be a part of my life. And fast forward 26 years, it still is. So I guess, that's how, the story came to be. For me, I ended up, going to University of California, Berkeley from high school, had a lot of options to choose from, being a top recruit in the country. You would think like it'd be easy to choose a university when you the number one recruit. You got every university coming to sit in your living room telling you they want you. But it was actually probably one of the hardest decisions of my life. Right? Everybody was pushing me to go towards like a Kansas or a Kentucky or North Carolina or Duke. And those were great universities. I went to all of them, and they didn't really do it for me. I didn't really feel comfortable. I grew up in Atlanta. The demographic was different there. I didn't feel like I could be myself, and quality of life was important to me. So I ended up going to UC Berkeley, which is a public university across the other side of the country, but it was the most like place that I felt like home. And when I got there, it even furthered that feeling, because there's so many people that were in that Bay Area, that Oakland, Berkeley area, that were strong people who were activists, who cared about their community, who were unapologetically Black, all of the above, and that's what I grew up around. So that's what led me there, and then I got drafted to come play basketball here, which was an easy decision, because a lot of times you don't get opportunities to be or use a platform like this. So when I was able to make the decision to come to the NBA, it was a no-brainer. Not because I wanted to forego my education, because it's not important. I definitely thought it was important, but life is education. So when I got to the point where I was here, I learned the most probably since I've been in the NBA than anywhere. And I think sometimes we look at like some university spaces as the only place you can learn. Like I learn on the fly. I'll probably learn something here tonight. You can learn something any and everywhere. Life is a university. So I look at it like that. As long as you open and willing and listening, you can learn from anywhere and anybody. And that's the one thing that my family taught me, and that still reigns true.
When you knew that basketball was the path that you wanted to take, how were you able to stay focused, balance life with friends, schoolwork, other extracurriculars that you had? How were you able to kind of like focus and make sure you stayed aware of kind of like basketball being your goal?
So for me, I remember basketball being a path and a tool in a way. I had a lot of relationships, friends, family that I truly trusted and believed in, but I understood that to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, to take care of my family, to really make a difference in my life, I had to commit. And that for me was worth all the sacrifice. I've always tried to surround myself with great people, people that are both empowering, but also people that will challenge me to be better. So for me, when I was growing up, I used to tell people, like, listen, I want to push you to be the best you can be, and you're going to push me to be the best me I can be. And if we do that, we're going to be close for a lifetime. And those are my closest friends still to this day. And the ones that weren't willing are the same ones that I may still have a relationship with, but we're not as tight as we were in the past. So for me, it was all about that opportunity in that moment. And try to manage and prioritize was the number one thing I learned as time went on. You make time for things that are important, just like coming here tonight and spending time here with you guys. You understand the priorities that need to be met. And for me, I try to make sure time management was the number one thing. When I was in college, I remember I used to go to teachers and speak and spend office hours to get work done early. I used to communicate with teammates saying, hey guys, I can't do this, but I'll be willing to do dinner at this time so that way I can fit into the schedule. And at times it feels like you're restricting yourself, but for me, it always made me feel in control and empowered and able to push myself to be the best that I could be and make sure that others around me were doing the same. And so in terms of life and basketball, I've always said it goes hand in hand because I always say you got to keep the main thing, and you got to understand that life may tell you to go a certain way and you have to follow it. And that was the path that I followed.
Yeah, I think Grant hit on something I think special, something that's been pivotal in my life, and that's you are who you surround yourself with, and you are your environment. And for all the kids in here, all the younger people, that's your friend group. That's the people that you spend all your time with at school, that you spend time with after school. Whatever you're doing with them, on the weekends. You're going to be a culmination of what you guys do together, a culmination of who those people are. So if they're good people, if they're people that are uplifting you, if they're people that are out in the community doing good work, if they're people that are really focused on their work, their schoolwork, they're working hard in the classroom, they're working hard on the court, you're going to become that. But if they're people that are doing the opposite and contributing a lot of negative energy around you, you're going to become that as well. So it's important to take a look at who you're surrounding yourself with every single day. And sometimes those are hard decisions. I've had to actually cut people out because they were people that weren't giving me good energy. They weren't giving me positive energy in my life. Sometimes that's family. Sometimes it's friends. It goes sort of across the spectrum. But as I got older, it became more and more true. It's very important while you're young, but as you get older, you have people that want to be around you, and sometimes you got to make hard decisions. And I think Grant said as well, I think I learned to at an early age that basketball could be a tool to really change my community, but also change the world around me. I think we all have an opportunity to change the world around you. We all have a gift. You got to hone into that gift. You got to figure out your purpose. You always have to be searching for it, and sometimes your purpose changes. But in some way, shape, or form, I think we all have to figure out how to give back, how to impact people around us. For me, my purpose, I don't feel like it's basketball. I feel like basketball is a tool for me. I feel like it's going to allow me to open doors, to meet people, to connect with people all over the world, different types of people from different cultures with different experiences and backgrounds, and allow me to impact other people. My purpose, I think, is helping people actually that are less fortunate than me, people in Africa that don't have clean water. So I have a foundation that focuses on delivering clean water in the form of wells, like deep borehole wells in the ground. In East Africa, Tanzania, and Kenya. So every summer I take a trip to Tanzania and Kenya, and these people have nothing. I mean, they're in terrible poverty. It's poverty unlike the poverty we really experience here. People that have no shoes, people that have no clothes, they have no food, they don't have clean water. So I think that is my purpose. That's something that I'm going to even, dig into more and really hone more once I leave the NBA. But it's all about finding that, finding what your tool is going to be, your mechanism to change, yourself and change the environment around you, and really, honing into that.
Before I ask my question, I just wanted to say that, like what Pastor Bob said, you guys coming here is really huge for these kids. This is me, Jaylen Brown. You were here, I think, my freshman year, and I remember it distinctly. I was on the varsity team in my high school, and I chose to miss practice to come to listen to you guys speak, and it had a huge impact on me. And to this day, and he doesn't know this, you've been my favorite basketball player ever since that day. Even before you were an all-star, before you this, year, that, I always tell my friends, they laugh at me, even if you're having a bad game, I always, I'm like, oh, nah, he's got it, this and that. So, what you guys being here is a huge impact on everyone here. You might forget this day, but all these kids, it's really gonna, be in their head forever. So I think it's great that you guys are here. So, but my question is,
and any of y'all can answer this, like how you incorporate faith into your everyday basketball routine or just in your life. Because being an athlete myself, whenever things are going good in sports or anything really, but mainly sports, like it's when my faith is on, so I'm focusing on God, focusing on what's important. So how would you guys say that you incorporate that into your everyday lives?
First, I want to say I appreciate you, and nothing is more grateful than being able to, dedicate time into the community, and it falls on people who are listening and who are taking some of the lessons, some of the mistakes that you might be sharing and applying them to their life. Because I think that's why the purpose, well, we're all here, or we're all sitting on the stage, and we all have platforms, and I think it's tremendously important because it's always somebody doing, not as good as you, and you could use your platform to uplift, to create positive energy, to help gather, all of the above. But to answer your first, I want to say I appreciate you. But to answer your question, faith is my foundation. Faith is what I revert to when adversity hits. Everybody in here is going to experience adversity. Everybody on this planet experiences adversity. Every living organism, even plants, struggle to get sunlight. It's just a part of, our being. So to be able to have something to revert to when, that adversity hits is paramount to me. My social media handle is faith, consistency, hard work pays off. And it's been that since I've had social media, since I was about 13 or 14 years old. So for me, faith has always been my number one thing. Sometimes you gotta take a step, not knowing if the staircase is actually there. And I think that's kind of how I see faith in my mind, believing in things that you can't necessarily see, touch, hear, or smell. And that's where my faith is derived in, is knowing that there's a higher power, knowing that, if I put my energy in the right place, if I put myself in a great position, that I'll be able to manifest, I'll be able to get to where I want to get to. So faith for me is like the number one thing. When all else is going wrong in my life, I revert to my faith. I revert to my belief in God, my belief in myself, my belief in my family, X, Y, and Z. Like faith is, an amazing foundational tool, and I think that some people in our generation lack faith. I think that when adversity hits, they revert to other things to alleviate pressure, which could be alcohol, which could be, drugs, which could be, other sources, that thing that people may do when adversity hits. Why? Because the pressure starts to build up. And it's hard to navigate those spaces. But if you have a strong foundation in your faith and improve and know that your faith is going to carry you through those moments, that I believe, even though that, I'm at the bottom right now, but I know one day I'm going to be out of this position. And I have complete faith in that. I think that'll help you, be able to turn things around a lot quicker than somebody else who lacks it. So for all the young people in here, who are old enough to understand, like, faith is believing when nobody else is. Like, when things are going the absolute worst, when your life seems like it can't get no worse than it actually is, that's when your faith needs to be the strongest. Like, because adversity is going to be something that you all going to go through. Stuff is going to go wrong. People are going to pass away. You're going to make mistakes. Other people going to, disappoint you. Other people are going to, take advantage of you. It's a part of life. It's part of our human experience. And that we're all going to go through. The faster you learn to accept it, that adversity, and use your faith to know that this situation is not going to be forever, that I'm going to learn and grow and improve, that I'm going to be a better man, I'm going to be a better woman, I'm going to be a better brother, I'm going to be a better sister, father, mother, all of the above. And then the quickly you'll be able to progress from one phase of adversity to the next phase. Because don't let, one mistake last you a lifetime. I see people all around who made one mistake and they carry with them the entire life. That's not why the Creator gave you that adversity. He didn't give it to you so you can just be down your entire life. He gave it to you so you can learn from it and move on, and somebody else can learn from you, right? So for the young and the old, because I think that's, depending on how you feel, right? I think the quicker we learn to get comfortable with adversity is a part of our human evolution. The quicker we learn to know that somebody else has dealt with this problem here before, somebody else has been through this. A lot of people have suffered from X, Y, and Z. I'm not the only one in the world. Don't say why me. As soon as we get, the attitude like, I got faith that, I know this situation is happening right now, but it's gonna turn around. You'll start to see, some of that adversity change a lot quicker than somebody who has the opposite mindset, who is more complaining, pessimistic, negative, etc. So I think faith has always been my foundation. Like I've become aware of that at a young age, probably around like 14 years old, that faith was the driver, the conductor to all of this. Like being able to have a strong belief system, not just in the Creator, but in yourself. Because people will try to break your spirit. When you maneuver through society, they'll try to break your spirit. These corporations, these businesses, these places that you gotta work, they'll try to break your spirit. So the quicker and the stronger your faith is, the more you'll be able to persevere, because I'll never give anybody that satisfaction. Like you'll never get the satisfaction of breaking my spirit. That ain't on you, right? So that's how I've always seen faith, and I'm grateful that faith was bestowed on me when I came here to this planet. But I think that's something that I would like our youth to continue to understand, because like if you don't believe in you, then nobody else is. Like, and that's one of the elements of life. If you don't believe in yourself, confidence can carry you so far in this world. And I look at faith and confidence and self-belief and belief in God all kind of in the same boat in a sense. So, and it's carried me far. So that was a great question from you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you said before too. And that's part of the reason why I'm back here again. So I think that's the best way. I know that was a little long.
If you all didn't know, Jalen is not only an all-star, he's also a preacher. So we're grateful to have you with us, brother. I want to talk a little bit of basketball and talking about like failure and talking about your highest accomplishments. Grant and Jalen, you've been with the Celtics. You all have been really successful. Malcolm, you've had great success before you came to the Celtics. Can you all share a little bit about what is one of your greatest basketball-related failures, how you got through it, and what is one of your greatest basketball accomplishments, and how did you achieve it? Anyone can answer.
I would say, for me, one of my sort of a failure, I feel like it has the same impact on you. When I was in college, like I mentioned earlier, I got to the University of Virginia. I'd had a pretty good freshman season. And at the end of that season, right before we made it to the NCAA tournament, right before we got there, my foot started hurting. The inside of my left foot started hurting. I think we had played UNC that night. And I went back to the locker room, wasn't feeling right, walked to the training room, and I took my shoe off, and it was like a ball. It was huge. We come to find out that I had basically broke a bone in my foot, and it happened to be a bone that is really a terrible one to break because it gets very little blood circulation just because of the location of your foot. That was really the first time in my life I had faced that type of adversity or setback in my basketball career. And I remember my mom coming back after they did the x-ray and us the doctor telling us that, 90% of people don't come back from an injury like this, especially not at an elite level. But you should get a surgery, but expect not to. I mean, immediately the coach started recruiting over me and basically replacing me. But I remember sitting there with my mom, and I don't remember crying in my life before, just like bawling. And I remember just her holding me and crying. And you know, you get to college, you guys will see, you get to college, you feel like you're a grown man. You feel like you're out on your own doing your thing. You're not. You're still a kid. You're still trying to figure it out. And that was one of those moments where I realized, like, you know, it doesn't matter how well you're doing. It doesn't matter what level you're at in life. You're going to, like Jalen said, adversity's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you hard. Sometimes you gotta cry. Real men cry. Like that's the realest thing you're gonna learn in life. I know in the Black community, you're always taught real men don't cry, and that's toxic masculinity. We got to get rid of that. Like we cry. You got to cry sometimes. But that was the first time I had really, I think, faced failure or a giant setback that felt so overwhelming I might not be able to overcome it. I did. I went to work right away. I attacked the rehab. I did overcome it. But it was extremely tough. Was the second part of your question about the biggest success? I think getting drafted to the NBA. Unlike Jalen was a phenom. Like y'all don't, he downplayed it. So Jalen, I think was 4 or 5 years behind me. So I didn't hear about him coming up because he was so far behind me. But once I graduated high school, I got to college. 2 years in college, I started hearing his name. I didn't know who he was. My older brother was telling me about it because my older brother was still in Atlanta. I was like, man, there's this young dude coming up. Like he's special, yada, yada. But anyways, I think me getting drafted was really the pinnacle, one of the pinnacles of my life, because it was all my hard work, all my sacrifice, all the parties that I sacrificed, all the alcohol I refused to drink in high school, all the women I turned down, literally everything. There's so much, and all my family that had helped me get to that point and support me. Being able to get drafted, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the clout and the fame. It was literally about you put this goal, really, you put this on your map early on, and you attacked it. You went after it, and you achieved it. And it didn't matter. I got drafted in the second round. I thought I should be in the lottery. I thought I should be in the first round. I thought all these things. I got drafted. There's 60 people every year that get drafted. And it's an amazing, amazing accomplishment and blessing. So I think, up until this point, that's definitely, if not my biggest, one of my biggest accomplishments. But it doesn't compare. I have 2 little girls now, and they are my biggest accomplishment by far. I have 2 beautiful little girls. So nothing compares to them. But in my career, getting drafted is definitely at the top.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Well, I know for myself, in terms of failure, I feel like it's one of those things that you don't really pinpoint one. I feel like I've had a collective amount where it's like I look back to that's really made me who I am. Whether it was the high school where you lose your state semifinal, then you end up persevering to win the state championship. In college where you lose in your first year, and the next year you win a SEC championship, and the following year you lose 2 championships in a row. And I look back and looking in most notable probably in NBA Finals. Losing that this past year would probably be the biggest failure that I've say basketball-wise that I've had. And for me, it's always been about how you respond. And just in every part of life, whether it's a bad stretch, whether it's something that's happened in the community or your family, whether it's something that you had academically that you did have a failure on a test, or you didn't do good on an exam and you want to retake it and do better. And for me, I've always said, rather than shying away from it, I embrace the work. And in terms of failure, I feel like no person in life, no matter how successful, has not hit a wall, has not failed and looked themselves in the mirror and said, how can I improve myself and how can I make everything else around me better? And that's how I've approached failure to this point where I've said, any time that you may look at yourself and not feel confident, you have to find ways to persevere through it. And even just if you think about right now, and for me, I've gone through it in my first year, second year, third year, now in my fourth. And it's all been about how you respond. And biggest success for me has always been academically. It's always been graduating college, just because I kept the promise that I made to my mom. And then in terms of basketball, I remember looking back, and I never cared about individual statistics and individual numbers. For me, it was always about team success. So I look back to the most fun that I've ever had has always been when a team has had success. So my second year in college, when we won that SEC championship, ended up making it to the tournament final and lost. But that SEC championship was special. That run and that team will never be forgotten for me. And then this past year, winning the Eastern Conference Finals, keep making it to your first NBA Finals, hopefully not the last. And being able to say, okay, you didn't make it and didn't have the success that you wanted to achieve, but you have to respond. And this is where it makes real champions. I always say, I look back to in history, there's never been a person that's only won. Even Michael Jordan couldn't get out the East for years. Even LeBron lost, 6 out of 10. So like, even just comparing those most notable names, but even the ones that no one talks about didn't have the successes. And I've always approached it as all about the response and how you approach it. You could either wallow and say, why me? And step away from it and say, oh, it just wasn't my time, and make the excuse. Or you can move forward and say, you know what, this challenge that God put me through is worth it, because he only gives his biggest obstacles to his strongest warriors, is what I've always seen.
This might sound a little cliche, but I learned that there's no such thing as success and failure, right? Only perspective. And I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner in my life than I did. Somebody might perceive, Malcolm talked about how he hurt his foot, and that was considered, adversity, and that he couldn't play, and that led to a failure. But that might have given you the focus and the drive and the faith enough to perform and get ready for the NBA draft. Like, we might have lost in the finals last year. That could be considered a failure. But it made me so much stronger, a better basketball player, which helped me into this year, which helped me reach other goals that I have planned in the future. So I don't see success and failure, or I measure it differently. Like, my success has always come from helping people, not in like goals or accomplishments. And I would like to encourage our young people to set, their measure of success on the same thing, because you're gonna go through so much internal struggle if you think that your success only comes from accolades, because you might not ever get them. Like, only a certain people are gonna get certain accolades, and you might not be one of them. And it's cool that you can work for that, but then that's just gonna distort like your internal happiness. Like, success for me comes from helping others. Like, you don't really see me smile a lot, but when I get to work with kids, when I get to be in community and use my platform, you probably see me smile all the time, because that's where I measure my success at. Not if, I make an all-star game, not if, they put me on, an MVP tracker list. Like, my success and my failures is measured by, how I represent my values as a man. And I think that's more obtainable for everybody in this room. Like, some people may, be the president of the United States in here, and some people may not. But I learned later in my life that success or failure is only perspective. Like, failure, that doesn't exist. If I learned, if I improved, if I grew, if I matured, if I leveled up, if I evolved, then how could I have failed? It don't. But if I allow my mind to think that I failed, then I did. If I allow my mind to take me to a place of failure, then I failed, right? Because mentally is, because your mental prowess is the most important. And I feel like nowadays it's such a warfare on your mind, being able to have a strong mind, because there's so many distractions, there's so many, people trying to set the idea for beauty, for masculinity, for femininity. There's so many people trying to tell you what you should do and how you should look and how you should walk and how you should talk and what you should wear. So it's hard, you know, to keep up with that mentally. But if I would like to remind, you know, when there's young people in the room, is that, you know, you got a set of values that represent yourself, and let that be your success and your failure. Nothing else in between. Not if I look like this, not if I look like that, not if I make this list or if I reach this goal, because you'll be chasing that your entire life. You know, I want people to chase happiness. I want people to chase their faith. You know, I want people to strengthen in those regards. But when I say it sounds cliche, like I'm just talking, but in reality, I learned it late, like not too long ago. But I wish I would have learned it earlier in my life. That, you know, some of my greatest failures that I would say have been some of my biggest blessings in this world. Like, and that's just from the beginning. Like growing up, not having a father in the household, I thought that was like one of my biggest failures in life, that I didn't have a 2-parent home. In reality, like if my dad wasn't removed from that home, I wouldn't be the same man I am today. So it's like some of the things that you think is setting you back is really setting you up. So like when I think about success and failure, it's only perspective. If you let your mind think you failed, then you fail. But ain't really no failure in life. Everything is about learning and growing. So like I want to re-emphasize that. Don't ever let somebody tell you you failed at something. A teacher, a student, a parent, a coworker, somebody in your family, ain't no such thing. And if you allow your mind to think that, then you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, nah, I'm gonna grow, I'm gonna learn, regardless as if the person you're talking to is able to recognize that or not. Like, I'm gonna get better, because that's what life is about getting better and improving every single year, all the time. So you ain't fail, you're just in the learning process.
So my question specifically for you, Malcolm, but Jalen and Grant, you can answer kind of from like when you were here as rookies. But Malcolm, this was your first year here with the Celtics. What was your mindset like coming into a new team, pretty much established with their own players and system, coming in and being yourself and kind of fitting into everything and making it seamless?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, honestly, I think so much of life revolves around ego, how much of it you have. For me, I'm a guy my first year in the league, I was Rookie of the Year. You know, I reached a high level of success when I got into the league, and I had a good career. You know, the next 6 years, my 7th year, I get traded to the Boston Celtics, who make it to the finals. I've started all my 6 years up until this point. But I come here, and they're like, you need to come off the bench. You got to be 6th, 7th man. Like, it's either that or you go to another team. And for me, it was really a sort of strike on my ego. Where's your ego at? How big is your head? And how much do you actually want to win? Because I'm a guy, I was with the Indiana Pacers last year, the last 3 years. We didn't win a lot, and that was frustrating for me. I labeled myself as a winner. So I told the Pacers, I want to go somewhere where I can win. They brought me to Boston, and I'm coming off the bench. I'm playing behind great players, but I'm coming off the bench, and no matter how you slice it, it's a shot at your ego. It's something that you grapple with. For me, I grapple with it every day. That's the reality of it. I'm going to be challenged. It's going to be a challenge for me every day. So I think it's important when you're entering a new situation, when you're in any type of team environment, what are you going to sacrifice? If you really want to win, if you really want to have success, if you really want to do well at a new job, how much of your ego are you willing to sacrifice? How much of your, even personal life, how much of your time, whatever it is, what are you willing to sacrifice to have that high level of success? And that's really, for me, been the story this season. And I think it's going to pay off. I think we have a great team. And I think we have, 15 guys on the roster that are sacrificing something. Jalen had 11 points last night. He maybe shot the ball 9 or 10 times. He averages like 30. He's gonna make an All-NBA team. He's gonna get all that stuff, but he's not worried about that every night because he knows what the long end goal is for us. So I think everything in life, as we've talked about all night, wraps back into perspective. and just having a long-term perspective, understanding what goal you want to reach and understanding how you can incrementally get there every single day. And for me, so much of it has been about humility, humbling yourself, and learning how to work with people around you and what you can sacrifice.
Clap it up for Malcolm Brogdon. I think he has to go, but let's clap it up for Malcolm Brogdon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
So my next question, even though both of y'all are, on the younger side, and our team's pretty young, I see you two as, big leaders on the team. And my question for you two would just be, what do you think is good leadership qualities, just in sports and in life? Like, what do you think is, have you observed and have you used yourself, or that are good leadership attributes?
For me, I've always said the best leaders are the ones who not only are willing to listen, but are willing to follow a little bit too. Because in order to lead, at some point, you might have to realize that you leading in a certain way may not be what that team needs. So, a story for myself, I remember when I was in college, I played for a team that I felt like I needed to be a verbal leader. I felt like I needed to speak up and talk all the time and be a guy that people listen to and look to. But I realized that I was much better at being the person that worked and did everything with no voice and empowering someone else to be, because people related to him and people believed in him in a verbal way. And I remember I sat down with Admiral and I was like, listen, man, in order for us to be the best team we could possibly be, you're going to have to take charge in terms of being the voice of this team and being the heart of this team. I'll do whatever you need me to do, and I'll support you in any way I possibly can. And from then on, we had success after that conversation. And sometimes that's the best thing about a leader, is understanding that it comes with serving first. Serving the people you're with, serving the people that you care for every single day, that you go to war with every single day, and the people that you love. Because in order to be a leader, you have to understand the qualities that you own yourself, but you also understand the situation that you're currently in, and whether or not that means you have to speak more, or whether you have to be more quiet, whether that means you need to work harder, or it means that you need to empower another person too, and to use those qualities for your entire team around you to make sure you're performing to the optimal ability.
All right, family, we're at the point of the time. We're going to open it up for you all. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then all of our supports in the congregation, you all can kind of come. I believe we're going to this mic. People can begin to form a line at this mic, and we'll begin to take questions from the crowd. Before we get started with the crowd asking questions, simple question: who was your favorite player kind of growing up, and what is one of your favorite basketball moments?
My favorite player was Trace McGrady. Growing up, one of my favorite moments of him, one that sticks out. I remember watching him in when he dunked on Sean Bradley. Like, it was, I don't know why it stick out, but I remember when I was a little kid, that was just like the coolest thing ever. Sean Bradley was like the tallest person in the NBA, like 7'5" or something like that. And I remember that Trace McGrady dunked on him, and for whatever reason, I was a little kid, and that just blew my mind.
For me, my favorite player was always the guys that looked like me. So Charles Barkley and Boris Diaw and Draymond Green, those are mine. In terms of favorite moment, I remember looking back to those Lob City Clippers days, and I played for Chris Paul in AAU, ended up in high school, and I remember the lob that was in transition to my teammate now, Blake Griffin, of Jamal Crawford, who was one of my favorite players at the time, who I had no comparison with. And he went between his legs and threw it behind him. And next thing you know, Blake dunked it. And that's like one of my all-time favorite moments, because I used to try and practice that in the driveway. And let's just say I didn't get up high enough to do that.
That's good. That's good. All right, fam, we can begin to ask questions from the crowd. So you all can kind of come to center stage. You have a question, turn it over to my dear brother here.
All right. So with the questions, you're going to state your name and who the question's for. Your name and who's your question for?
My name is Jamil. I have a question for Jaylen Brown, and shout outs to Mr. Richards for this question. So, which basketball player inspired you when you were younger?
I'll give you five. No particular order. Trace McGrady, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Manu Ginobili, and what was the fifth one? All right, Carmelo Anthony.
All right, your name and your question.
My name is Tayshawn, and my question is for Jaylen Brown. So growing up, how did you get noticed by coaches?
How did I get noticed? I started dunking on people. Yeah, that was pretty much, that's the truth. That was pretty much it after that. Yeah, I just, I started, working on my body. Like every day I would do like 100 push-ups when I woke up, and I'll do 100 push-ups before I went to sleep. Like just for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like my body just started to change as a 14, 15-year-old where, I started to develop, I was stronger than my peers. And that allowed me to be a little bit more athletic. So, those were just little small commitments I would do every day because my brother played football. So he was on like get stronger type stuff. So I would do push-ups right when I woke up in the morning. First thing, like before I brushed my teeth, I would do 100 push-ups. And that was like every day of the week from when I was 12 years old till I was 16. If I missed a day, I would do more. I would always keep it, I missed 2 days, now I gotta do 300 tonight. I would never miss a day. I would always make it back up. And I got stronger, I got more athletic, I got faster. And I'm not making this up either. And I guess that's kind of how I got noticed too at an early age because my body was a little bit more developed.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. And your name and who's your question for?
This doesn't really matter.
So this is gonna be for you, Grant. So get ready.
What made you start playing basketball?
Grant, what made you start playing basketball?
The reason why I started playing basketball is I actually did it for fun. I never really took it too seriously. I was a kid that was just super explorative. I was like, all right, what sport can I play now? I played every sport growing up. And let's just say basketball was the only one that was indoors. And that kind of helped me a little bit because there was air conditioning. And for me, I just kind of enjoyed the people. And as I developed those relationships, I fell in love with the sport itself and the actual basketball. I fell in love with hearing the ball go through the net. I fell in love with helping my team win. And it was never the most traditional orthodox way. My dad and family members used to say, you have to score the basketball, you have to do this for people to notice you. And I was like, why don't they notice me for winning? And that was the question I always asked them. I'd rather win than get 56 points and lose. And as time went on, I just stuck with basketball and fell deeper in love with it and stayed playing it today.
All right, your name and your question for who?
My name is Joel, and I have a question for Grant. My question is, once you first started playing real and got into real organized basketball, how'd you deal with the pressure of the audience watching and stuff?
For me, in terms of audience and pressure, I've always thought of it as this. People are going to say whatever they want or do whatever they want to you and saying whatever they think. And you can only control what you can control. So I knew for me, what I could control is the effort that I played with, no matter if I made shots, no matter if I tripped over my own feet running up and down the floor. I knew that whether or not people wanted you to be embarrassed, for me, I just laughed at it. Like I tripped over my own feet. That's funny. So like it made me feel more lighthearted about things and made me realize that the only person that can make you uncomfortable is yourself. And I used to go out there and there would be times where I would miss a wide open left-hand layup when I was 13. Did that at 16 at one point. And I was like, all right, don't you say it. And it's like, all right, cool, it happened. But I can't go back and change that, nor can I control what people are going to say or react to. So what I can control is the next play I'm going to do. And I just found love with the actual sport itself and found love with the people around me. And I realized that if I can make people laugh and everything else, who cares how it is? And I just kind of embraced it that way. For me, I just fell in love with the camaraderie and the love of the sport.
All right. These two have a question. Your name?
Freddie. We have a question for Jalen. Why did you choose number 7?
Why did you choose number 7?
That's a long answer I got behind that. But I guess in short, when I first got to the Celtics, they didn't have a lot of numbers. Like 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, all retired. But growing up, 7 was always my favorite number. Like 7 just always stood out to me. Like I look around and I see 7s. Just 7 is always followed me for whatever reason. So I've always felt like an attachment to that number. My favorite player growing up was Michael Vick. I'm from Atlanta. So the number 7 always just stood out to me. So I remember when I was, how old are you?
11.
When I was 12 years old, I wrote down a list of everything that I wanted to do, like basketball-wise, in my like high school career. I wrote down like I wanted to be recruited by these coaches. I wanted to be on ESPN. I wanted to have a highlight tape. I wanted to be the number 1 player. And I wrote down all of these different things, and also wrote that I wanted to wear number 7 in the NBA because I could never wear it where I'm from in middle school and high school because it was like an illegal number because of the officiating rule, 7 and 52 or whatever. You could never wear it in grassroots sports. So I could never wear my favorite number growing up. So when I told myself when I get to the NBA, I'm going to wear number 7. And I wrote that down on the list at 12 and I gave it to my mom. And she still has the list. And everything on that list came true.
Wow.
Emmy, Lucy,
Yeah, who's your question for?
Jalen. What is your favorite team to play against?
Favorite team to play against, Jalen?
That's a good question. Favorite team? It's always good going home, playing against Atlanta or going to Atlanta to play against them because that's where I'm from. I used to watch that team when I was growing up, but I wouldn't say that's my favorite. I would probably say the Lakers is a good one. Like one because the Celtics and Lakers, the rivalry, it's like a lot of energy. Everybody's coming to the game. Everybody's going to talk about that game. So most people might not watch not one game the whole season, but they're going to watch the Celtics versus the Lakers. So I think that's probably one of my favorites.
All right. Hi. Your name?
Jackson.
Jackson, who's your question for?
Jalen.
Jalen?
Besides basketball, what is your favorite hobby? Like hobbies?
Got some hobbies here, JV?
Yeah, I like to read. I got a lot of hobbies. I like to listen to music. I like to, is watching a TV show a hobby? Does that count? Watching TV is not a hobby? He like, nah. I got a lot of hobbies. Music, reading, writing, stuff like that, I would say. Grant got some hobbies too. Like he likes to play chess, but I don't think he's that good.
He's
I never
saying,
played him.
He's
never
saying
played
that
him.
because he will never play me.
He's asked me a million times, Jalen, you want to play chess with me? And I'm like, no.
Listen. I had a cover photo where I was playing chess next week, all I see is JB playing the white pieces. I was like, oh, he's playing a game.
Thank you, Jackson. Your question, and your name.
Henry, it's for Jalen. What's your favorite pair of shoes?
Favorite pair of shoes, JB?
My favorite pair of shoes? Man, that's a good question. Y'all got some good questions today. My favorite pair of shoes, I'll probably go, the shoes I got on, like white, we call them, where I'm from, we call them Fazos. They call them, I think up north they call them ups. What do they call them? All white ups? You don't know?
I'm from the South, brother.
All white, Air Force Ones. I think that's probably my most wear shoe. I know in Boston they wear a lot of Adidas. And what was that in the back? See, yeah, I know they wear Adidas up here, so I don't want to start no beef in the church.
All right, thank you for your question. All right, your name and who's your question for?
My name is Alan, and my question is for Jalen. If you beat LeBron James, how you'll feel?
In a fight or?
Meaning on the basketball court?
It feels good every time we beat. LeBron's probably, arguably, greatest player to ever play the game. So anytime you win against him, it's definitely pretty cool. You know what I mean? I've been, in the league a long time, and LeBron has been dominant since I've been there. So it's always great to get a win against LeBron.
All right, thank you for your question. Young lady, hi. And your name?
I'm Kadali.
Kadali? What's your question? It's for which one?
What age?
It's for Grant or
Williams. What age were you playing basketball?
I started playing basketball when I was 10 years old. 10 or 11 years old is when I really started, because before that, my brother and everybody played, but I was so focused on everything else. I was focused on music and playing chess, and not really focused on sports. And then 10 years old, I got into organized basketball. I remember the first day I went to a practice or a game, the coach took my jersey away and tried to give it to another kid. So I remember like it was yesterday. And I ended up switching programs and ended up getting better and just ended up where I am today. So yeah, that 10 or 11 years old.
All right, thank you for your question. Who we got next? All right, your name and who's your question for?
My name is Jeremy. My question is for Jalen. So, as a young player, how did you feel about losing versus how you feel about losing, like in today's games?
Still feel the same. I mean, make you just as mad losing, But sometimes what I've learned in leadership, sometimes you need to lose. Sometimes you can lose the battle to win the war. So sometimes like losing can, it's a team sport. So it's never like I'm losing by myself. We all losing, but sometimes you got to learn a lesson collectively, right? And only way you'll be able to learn it is when you lose. If you always are winning and always on the peak and on the mountaintop, you'll never learn the kind of the stuff that's in those valleys that's going to take you further. So sometimes I think, it sounds crazy, but I think sometimes it's good to lose sometimes.
All right, thank you. Ladies, hi. Your names?
I'm Maddox. I'm Maeve.
And who's the question for?
We have a question for both of you. So what was like one of your most embarrassing moments when you were playing a game?
Who wants that one?
Oh yeah, I scored on the other team's basket a couple times growing up. That was definitely one of mine. Coming out of halftime, you think you're going the other way, and you're like, oh yeah, wide open layup. You're excited, you're pumped. You're like the freest 2 points I've ever got in my life, and then you realize you scored on yourself, and you're like, great moments.
JB, an embarrassing moment?
I missed some game-winning free throws before, and
I did that recently.
yeah.
I answered both your questions.
All right. Good. All right. Thank you, ladies. How are you? Your name and who's your question for?
My name is Ozzy. My question's for Jalen. So, Jalen, you know your contract's expiring. I just wanted to know, are you ever leaving the Celtics?
This dude's keeping up. He's keeping tabs.
It ain't gonna be up to me, so we'll see.
You a top 5 shooting guard in the league. It's definitely up to you.
Yeah, he said top 5, not top 2. You gotta say number 1, brother, if you want to keep him
If
here.
the organization, if they feel the same, then that's what it's gonna be.
All right.
AJ,
Thank you.
You're the best. You're the best shooting guard.
That's it, bro.
Mason, and my question is, who do you want to dunk on next?
Who's that for? Is that for both? That's for both of y'all.
That's for Grant.
I thought he was gonna say it was me, because it never happened. But
You never dunked on nobody? You dunked on somebody.
you never dunked on me, I'm saying. But
Not even in practice?
I ain't never tried to dunk on Grant.
you have. You once or twice and it didn't go your way.
Grant is gonna foul you.
No, I blocked dunks.
You know, stick his chest out and walk around like he just did something. Why would I try to hurt myself in practice?
I'm 2 for 2.
Like, didn't we just say, sometimes you gotta lose the battle to win the war?
He's lost a lot of battles with me.
I'm not gonna try to dunk on Grant. Why would I do that?
All right. Thank you for your question. Your name and who's your question for?
My name is Jesse, and my question is for Jalen. How did you feel when you dunked on LeBron James?
Oh.
Felt great. I felt, like I said, LeBron is, in my opinion, the greatest player to ever play. I'm not going to argue with somebody who says, whoever else. But LeBron James is definitely, one of the greatest players I've seen in my generation with my own 2 eyes. So to be able to compete just in general is a blessing. So it felt good. Felt great, actually.
All right. Thank you for your question. Your name and who's your question for?
My name is Jaden, and my question is for Jalen Brown. Who is your favorite Celtic player of all time and why?
Who's your favorite Celtic of all time, JB?
I love this question. My favorite Celtic player of all time is definitely Kevin Garnett. I know he was only there for a short amount of time. He wasn't there as long as some of the other Celtic greats, but KG his intensity level, his demeanor, his work ethic, it made me a Celtic fan when he was here, and I'm not nowhere near from Boston. But, KG definitely, that energy he got, I might not show it on the outside, but internally it resonated with me, like that tenacity, that I'm here to win. I don't care if you like me. Like KG, he just walked that every single day. So KG was my favorite Celtic.
All right. That was our final question, but I got a question to throw at you guys. How important is this upcoming 6-game road trip?
Oh, yeah, it's pivotal for us. I think it's going to be, super important because, one, we're getting closer to the playoffs, so it's important that we start to build that camaraderie, start to build that foundation of winning basketball that we've been doing all season long. But as we get closer to the playoffs, you want to clean up some of those habits and focus on what it needs to win, because it's going to be all of us to win. It's not it's not one or two. It's a whole team. And I think that's what gets lost because, people focus on like the star power or people focus on the big names. But, to win, I feel like when I've been able to go the furthest, we've had a great team. And this year we have a great team. So I want that to continue to be like the emphasis. Like if we want to win, we got to play as a team. And that's just, it is. If we think that one person's going to carry it all or 2 people is going to carry it all, I think we're going to fall short. But if we play as a team, I think we'll win.
All right. We can let Reverend Gray take us home.
Hi, I wouldn't let any adults come and get in line because this was the kids' time. So I got one last question and then we're leaving. They wanted to know, how important is faith and trust in your teammates when you're out there trying to make a run like you guys are making? How important is that? It's important to have skill and play, but how important is that faith and trust? And that's for both of you.
I would say it's one of the most important things because for me, it's always been you have to believe in the person beside you in order to have success. The best moments and the best times that I've had in my life is the moments where we uplifted one another. Not the times where I've led the way and it's only been me. It's always been the ones where we felt like every single person mattered from top to bottom. And faith has been a huge part of that throughout my entire journey in life. And with these teammates, I have faith and trust that every single person on the team is doing their best to the best of their ability to make everyone around them better, but also to accomplish a certain goal. Everyone's focus is that. And to have that belief, to have that trust, to have that faith really shows the level of dedication that everyone on this team has, but also shows the amount of love that the people have for one another. I've been on teams where guys didn't hang out, didn't spend time with one another, or even care about one of the other's lives, whether or not they had kids, whether or not they have a wife or family, how they're doing. And I've been on teams like this one, and people actually genuinely care, how are you doing? And that's the biggest thing, is that trust and faith that we have for one another stretches not across just basketball, but stretches through life.
Yeah, to be honest, when you get in the playoffs, especially past the first and second round, without faith, trust, like, you're not going nowhere. It's not just important, it's everything. If you don't have faith in your teammate, once you get into like the deep rounds trying to win a championship, it's gonna show. It's gonna display itself in one way or the other. And I think it's extremely hard, or almost, I don't want to say impossible, but to win a championship and then not have faith or trust in your teammates. Like, and that's not just, the NBA finals. I think that's like businesses, entrepreneurship. I think that's a church, any type of organization. If you don't got faith and trust, it's hard to ever get to the point of success that you want to reach, because, without it, it's going to cause too many ailments. And in basketball, like, you see it and everybody's going to see it live, in real time. Like, didn't make that extra pass, or, he got beat off the dribble. You wasn't there to cover him or have his back or meet him at the rim. You didn't shake his hand when he came out the game. You could see in real time what faith and trust looks like in the teams that have it and the teams that don't. And as we go on into this run, we have it. But we need to expand on it, emphasize it, and build on it more, because it's when you get to the thick of things, where it's like backs against the wall, we're tired, the other team is tired, we're exhausted, we got people in foul trouble, they got people in foul trouble. Your faith and your trust is what's going to save you. And I've been to the finals, I've been to the conference finals 4 or 5 times now. I don't think I've ever not made the playoffs my entire career. So, like, to be on a winning team has been a blessing. But I noticed the levels of trust in each team have wavered, and the teams that we've had the most faith and trust have done the best. That was 2018. That was last year. And I think coming into this year now, the teams I've had that level of trust have always seemed to excel a little bit more. And that comes with, playing with somebody, knowing them on and off the court. Now, I've been playing with Grant now for 4, this is your 5th year?
4th.
4 years. I've been playing with Jason for 6, Smart for 7, Al for 4 or 5, Peyton for 3, Rob for 5 or 4. And it takes time to build that. But I think this is a great year. I think we've been playing well all season. And I think our faith and our trust is there and it's high. you know, but as we get closer to the playoffs, we need to double down on it, triple down on it, to be honest, because it's going, all that little stuff, picking your teammate up, you know, if a guy come out, if the dude didn't hand him water fast enough, I'm gonna hand him the water. Like, all those little type of things adds up. And right now, we are probably middle of the pack at that. And like, we gotta pick up on that. Somebody make a mistake, slap on the head, like it's gonna be all right. You know, throughout the year and throughout organizations, sometimes, you know, people get into their own world and their own bubble. So somebody's not doing well, you don't say nothing to them because you're not doing well. So it's just like, it just carries on. But if you want to win something together, that can't be the energy. That can't be the environment. Everybody got to be there for one another. Everybody got to be there having each other's back. If he fall, it need to be 5 hands picking him up. If I fall, it need to be 5 hands picking me up. You know, and that's just the culture, what we need in terms of winning. And I think this is the time right now where we've done it, but we emphasize it. And that's a part of, you know, actually it's a great question because it's stuff that I want to re-emphasize to our team in the next couple of days, like pull us all together and be like, this is the stuff that we all got to be better at because it's all going to add up. You know, everything adds to winning. So I think faith and trust is everything when it comes to winning. Because especially in a team sport, you can't do it alone. No matter how good the player or how great the player, they've all had faith and trust in multiple members of their teammates. And from our leaders, and I'm one of them, we need to have more if we want to do the same.
Amen. Great answer.
Family, let's clap it up for Grant Williams and Jalen Brown one more time. Woo! Let's give them a standing ovation.
Give them a standing ovation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And also, let's hear it for this interview team.
Amen.
And Coach Willie May.
Amen. All right, family, we're going to close out together in prayer, so do me a favor. Grab the person who's next to you, feel comfortable. Grab their hand. We want to give a shout out. We want to give a quick shout out, real quick, family. One of our other senior pastors is in the room, Pastor Gloria White Hammond. Let's clap it up for her over there. Good to see you, Pastor Gloria. So as we grab hands, we clap it up for Sister Carrie, one of our strong worship leaders here at Bethel. We're going to clap it up also for a phenomenal basketball player. He's also on the stage, our dear brother Casey, who's going to be a rising sophomore at Yale University playing ball for them. So we're happy for him to be with us today. But let's pray, family. As we think about the words of Malcolm, of Grant, and Jalen, as we think about how we need to believe in ourselves, to have confidence, and have faith and trust. Let us pray by repeating after me. Say, God, I am divine. God, I believe in myself. I believe in my family. I'm going to do my best to be the best version of me. Success and failure is all about perspective. And I will grow and move forward. This I pray in the name of love. Everyone say amen. Amen. God bless you all. Amen. Take care.